In this video, I'm going to be talking about Netvrk, the metaverse play that has a potential to 10 times, 100 times. I don't know, let's see. We're gonna take a look at the fundamentals. We're gonna walk through sort of all the white paper, sort of what people are saying on social. We're gonna take a look at the charts and we're gonna see where it is and what it could potentially go to and kind of give some predictions at the end here. So, but we gotta walk through the process so that we can kind of, talk it out and make sure we get to a conclusion. I don't wanna give you some false information here or some wild information, but if you're not sure what Netvrk actually is, it's a metaverse game sort of looking to come out, or at very least a world, a decentralized sort of world, looking to kind of niche out. And as seeing as we have a few of those, we got Decentraland, we got Axie, we got Sandbox, and they have their own sort of shtick. And if you look at them, they're, the ones going, Decentraland's kind of going into the metaverse as like a 3D world. And then you have obviously Sandbox, which is kind of mimicking the Minecraft look with the pixelated version. Then you have Axie that's kind of like a video, like a Pokemon game. So they've all kind of got their own little space. But the thing that Netvrk is bringing to the table is that it wants to do it in VR, right? So it's really, this is a major part of the white paper and really sort of what they put as the doctrine for the company and where they're trying to chase is VR and AR, augmented reality. So they want to kind of be leaders in that space in the crypto world. It seems as though they're one of the notable teams and groups looking to push that right now. I've done a little bit of look myself. I obviously looked at the white paper because I wanted to do a little bit of research before this video because it's not the time to read through the whole thing with you guys. I did glance through it. I didn't get hugely in depth. There was a few points I'll talk about in a minute that are notable and some things of concern. But first, let's just kind of jump over to the charts, look at the price action and see those. Let's start there and see what that sort of means for us now and potentially in the near future. So. Okay, I usually like to play on CoinMarketCap. I just like it. So here we are starting off on the 7-day, looking at a pretty simple look here. We've seen a nice little chase up and down here, even though we've been in a bit of a downturn for the whole crypto market as of right now. I would actually say I found this coin based on an Alex Becker pick, and I know I did another video based on stuff he does. Great person to follow because he's got a huge following and he's really deep into the metaverse and he just watches the video games and he comes at it from a point of making money. So I'm always interested to see what he's like throwing out there as curious little tidbits on his ZSS Becker over on Twitter. You should check it out. It's a good place to kind of see what his mindset is. Definitely got a strange sort of outlook on it, but I would hazard that this little pump here might have even had something to do with that. He's got enough of an influence and a little bit of following to kind of, I think, move some markets, especially on the small scale, but I could be wrong. It's just a guess. That's total conspiracy theory. But there's definitely some action here, and if you had bought in, you could have got almost 2 times, maybe not quite there. But let's zoom on out. Let's not do the year to date. Let's do all time and kind of see where we've made it to. And so what I like to do is generally see that it's following the patterns that I want altcoins to do, and that is rally post Bitcoin rally, right? First off, Bitcoin needs to rally, and then there will be anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks before altcoins really rally. And I'm not talking just about, even though Ethereum's an altcoin, I'm talking about the real altcoins, like random stuff and even micro caps, which clearly we're talking about. So the first kind of space we see here is that let's just see what it did when it did on its last run. So 11/24/2021, that's hitting around when the peak was. Bitcoin actually peaked in early November. So it was like 11/2 or something like 11/8 and 1 week into it. That's where it peaked. So this definitely kind of adheres to that chasing. So 2 things out of that is, one, that I know that it's playing the game that we're generally expecting, but 2, also it's a perfect thing to give you an opportunity so you can wait for Bitcoin to move and then you can jump into chasing its tail. And this is something that's a bit of a tactic that a lot of people in the community will talk about when it comes to chasing altcoins. So I like to see that. And if we're looking at the numbers here, about $7, I'm just going to use $7 for round. Let's see, that's coming from about 20 cents. I'm just hitting here, wow, even like 15 cents, even if we just say the peak of this area, 20 cents. So if I open up the calculator real quick and let's do divided by, that's a 35 times that we've already seen in that previous little bull run that we had here, sort of coming through the end of the year to the beginning of this year. You could have made 35 times on your money if you had to put in there. Obviously, this was somewhere in June, July of 2021. If you had have thought about this, you'd be living the dream. So This kind of leads us to a precursor that potential's there, because if we look at where we're sitting right now, right, we're sitting around $1.60. Okay, what is the actual? Yeah, $1.60. So we're not down to those 20-cent levels, but again, going to 7. Let's bring up another calculator. Let's divide that by $1.60. So we're looking at kind of a minimum of 4 times to get back to just where we were, let alone continuing further, assuming that a new all-time high was to be reached. So from right now, if you're getting in, you're making a 4 times, so you can make that play. Put $1,000 in, you're probably walking away with 4,000. This is not financial advice, by the way. This is just potential and speculative entertainment, and I don't want to say education because you might take that the wrong way, but it's definitely entertainment. I'll go with entertainment. So yeah, you could make a 4 times right now if it was to even just get back to where it was. And again, something like this with a little bit more hype, a little bit more time on some results, and actually getting a beta out there or an alpha test, this would make this thing a lot more, ready to moon, in my opinion. Just kind of starting off, like right off the bat, if I see an altcoin that's already done some runs, short of us going through a 3-year bear, there's potential there to get back to sort of these same places, if not go higher. So that's a good sign right off the bat. What I like to do is kind of see, so what that meant is we're at about 50. Let's look at the market cap right there. We're at, I just want to select you. So we're at 50 million. That is true micro cap. I mean, we're talking hundreds of billions for a lot of these other altcoins. So 50 million is really a small company, and if we kind of 4 times if we basically do a 4 times to get us back to there, it peaked at about 220 million. It was its market cap, its total value. So that's very low in it. But what we should always do is we should compare it to other things in the space. And so I mentioned, the other big players in there, Axie, Sandbox, Decentraland. I would say out of all of them, it's kind of the closest to, say, a Decentraland, because it's got the same sort of it's a 3D model metaverse that you can be in. So let's actually open up let's open up another browse here, another page or another tab. I can't think of the word. Let's look at Decentraland. So Decentraland right now is currently at 4 billion. So right off the bat, we've got, potentials to be getting to somewhere like this. If it even remotely, does as well as Decentraland. Now, obviously, Decentraland has, a lot of name, a lot of publicity behind it, which is something I think that they would be looking to get to. But if we look at the all-time here, we have a look at some high numbers for where it was originally, its peak at about 540, right? So if we times that by 1.8 billion, let me see if I can put this in here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 1.82 billion. Let's times that by 5.4. That would be 9.8 billion would be the market cap. So currently at 4.6, this thing at its high was double this. So it was it's coming down about halfway. It obviously with the 250, but it potentially could get to a 9 billion, right? So we're talking about something right now that's aspiring to be, this platform or better, and it's at 50 million, right, as a market cap, right? And so there's a correlation obviously to the market cap and the value, right? Because it's the times the circulating supply. So going from, let's divide this by 50, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 50 million. I mean, there's some numbers right there for you. That's a 200 times to get to that place. What kind of timeline you would be looking at to get to that place? I don't know. Take a look and looking through Decentraland's sort of like history and seeing what it did. Obviously, time and when it hit during certain runs and just sort of the publicity it's had are all its own set of things. But this, to get to the same place that Decentraland is at its peak was, right, at its peak, even if we were to use half of it, where it is right now, okay, that would be half this, that'd be 100 gain. That'd be 100 times, 100x on your money from right now. That's what that would be. So I don't know if I'm saying my prediction early, but the potential's there, okay? The potential's there. So let's obviously take that with a grain of salt. But next thing we kind of want to do is we want to go have a look at the rest of the information. Let's go look at their website. Let's take a look at their white paper, sort of like their tokenomics, etc. So I actually have already opened it. I'll bring it open and click on it there for you guys. So this is our landing page where we're given to. I didn't notice this at first, but this is actually a play button. So they obviously want you to thoroughly vet them, and they're being pretty transparent right off the bat. Tokenomics white paper. I like to see that. That leads me to believe that they are, transparent, or at least trying to be, pretending to be, and which is good. Lie to me at very least. If you're gonna try and screw me, lie to me. Let's take a look at those in a second. This is a main video you should watch. I won't go through this. Right now I've got it on mute. I don't want to get any sort of problems here on YouTube, but we'll just cut through some of it. One of the main things this really talks about and that it focuses on for you, and I'll say it and you can see that you can read the subtitles there, is that it really heavily works on making it easy for people to create content in it, because it does talk about this in the white paper as being one of the major downsides of VR right now. And you can actually see this world kind of being made. They're currently talking about it having no real, kind of like no man's land, where it's like all unique. So no place should be different if they ever end up making universes. And but that's something I'll talk about in a little bit, because that's actually of concern to me, is that if they were to expand too big, too early, that concerns me, because I've talked with people who've seen other projects go the similar route and actually gone downwards. But we'll talk about that once we get to the white paper. But this is the focus on the video, where it's really starting to talk about how easy it is to manipulate the world and or pieces in the land. And here we got, them starting to mess around with pieces of equipment. Here's him trying to place it down. You know what I mean? It's like supposed to be obviously using your wands and your VR. It's their main focus in this whole video, again, is trying to sell you on how easy it's going to be for non-3D users, serious geeks to use their interface and to use to manipulate the world, to manipulate the land, make new things, make actual assets in the world. Because obviously one of the first parts of sort of adoption for many people is going to be actually building content. Like if originally you're not going to have much to play with, there might be a few stock things to start with, but you want the community to build that stuff for you, and that's going to be part of that monetization. So huge emphasis and throughout all the white paper on how much they're trying to focus on that. So it should be interesting to see when this is going to be done. Actually, I want to check something out real quick and see when this was uploaded, because I did notice, so this is a very recent video uploading. So that footage itself actually looks, in my opinion, this looks kind of crazy here. A note to be said about the actual engine that's running it. So we'll get to that in a minute. It looks pretty good, the trees look like a little lackluster, but it's definitely something. Here we go, we're on a moon, we're all of a sudden. And then this portion of the video, they're actually talking a little bit about the gaming aspect, which they're gonna kind of incorporate, where you could make games. So they're gonna want it to be something that people make all these different avenues of reasons to be there. So that's obviously a problem with sort of a lot of metaverse. It's like, why would you be in there? Like there's so many places to pick right now. And it's just one of those things, why would you be in there? Let's dive into those in a second. Let's just scroll down the webpage, take a look at some of the other things. So they had a new push right now on the avatars. They just released them, I think not too long ago. They actually had a release for the vehicles. They had a reveal here for vehicles. Then they had some special bonuses, which I think are like artifacts and whatnot. One of the interesting things I've seen about this is a lot of partnering they've had with other networks and other brands. It just seems like there's been a lot of partnering, and when you go to their Medium, their sort of blog post website, they've got a lot of them going back and forth. And so we can see here that they also start to talk about their ecosystem. They cover this more in depth in their white paper. Just sort of, again, you can buy assets. You have NFTs in this project, so you do have the ability to buy, make, sell to people. They do mention some stuff about ad space, which is something that I'd be interested in, because I think that's going to be a huge thing for brands and businesses getting involved. They're going to want ad revenue. They're not going to necessarily want to get deep into making 3D objects. Some companies may, but for the most part, it would be like, if people are there, can you get ad revenue? I mean, look at Google. I mean, YouTube, right? And Google altogether. It's just all of it's made through ad revenue, right? It's just people paying money for ads. So yeah, you can obviously do some staking on it. You can make your own NFTs, which are the 3D in-world assets, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it's kind of the standard stuff you'd be expecting from an NFT game, but they're trying to do it in VR, right? So you can already buy the coin right now. It is their thing is $Netvrk. with a V. You can get it on KuCoin, which I would mention there. They're mentioning it here too. Let me see. I usually scroll down to the bottom here and just kind of look what markets you can get it. You can get it on Uniswap right now, Hotbit, MEXC, and KuCoin. So keep an eye for those if you are looking to pick up some of the coin, you know, and actually invest in it. That's where you can go about and get it. So here they talk about their staking a little bit. All filled. Good stuff to see. Not entirely sure how the process was when it was going through. Again, we're looking at this post sort of a lot of things happening, but this is when interest is starting to build. So they do have one medium term. So you can see that medium term versus short term, 90 days. Some of these shorter terms are 90 days. So this is 150 days. You can get 20% down and lock up some of your network for 150 days. That's half a year. Kind of scary at this point, especially with what we're doing in the market. So that's probably why that's still open. But yeah, so here we go. Here's the NFT collection that they have recently just dropped, which has been sort of the buzz I think we've been hearing, is the buzz between these things popping out, the transports, a lot of buzz on Twitter about these. These were really cool looking. And the land recently happened. I can't remember when exactly. In October, November, the land happened out. Let's actually take a look over at OpenSea. I might even have one of these tabs open. I do, but let's start from scratch. And yeah, I like to take a look at if they do have some assets and just kind of look. So I looked at this a little bit ago and it was 0.8 ETH. And we can actually check out the Ether, the activity right now. And we're looking at the land specifically, but they have the other assets sort of listed elsewhere. And this is sort of when I heard about it, right? And this was a few days ago. And I've been doing a little bit of research and been busy on some other projects. But, you know, we're seeing a little bit of taper. Could this be related to the actual, you know, downturn we've seen in the crypto markets as a whole? Probably, right? So I would still say that this is a good little run in the right direction. You got some decent volume in here, right? So, you know, we've got volume traded. This is total volume traded, I believe. I don't think this is, you know, 24-hour volume traded or something. Let's actually go take a look at the items and let's look at the number one. Let's look at the first one here. So, you know, this is what's being offered. It's currently at about $1,500 as it's worth. So we've got that. We got some wrapped ETH you can use on OpenSea. You know, some standard land. So it's broken into standard, mega, epic, and they got some various versions. And I'll actually take you to the map in a second. I signed up for an account. I actually wanted to find this one. So this is the lowest one listed. It's currently on a bid. It's not on a buy it now, but you'd have to be bidding for it. So I wanted to find out where this was. So this is what it looks like. If you actually go here and you can go to the marketplace, I'm already logged in on one of these puppies. Oh, the dashboard here. Once you sign up, you have to get a username, password, boom, create one. Very simple. Connect your MetaMask wallet, done. And you're taken to the map. And I kept looking for the map everywhere. I didn't realize you had to actually log in. So if you've been looking for the map, this is it. This is where it is. This is very interesting. I wasn't sure because all those videos were showing me very like open worlds with like non-unlimited space, and then they were showing moons and stuff, which has some concern for me. And I'll talk about that in 1 second here. But look at this map. It kind of looks fun. I'm getting shades of with the sort of symmetry of it. I'm getting shades of Zelda. You know what I'm saying? Breath of the Wild here. I don't know why. It's just kind of like the hot. This looks like the fireplace. Obviously, if it was twisted, and then the snowlands, and then the big volcano, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. There's not a lot of description of what's going on with the space, and obviously, when you could get this at the time, you could mint it. You know, people did mint it, and they've been selling them. And you can see, so this is how it's broken up into. You've got these different types: standard, medium, large, giant, and mega. So you can see, you can hover over them and kind of see like the size difference, right? Large land, giant land, and then your standard land is some small stuff. So I actually wanted to look and find, because it was like, it's actually, they don't have a great system. What I will say is Sandbox's system is a little easier. It's still not great. I feel like they could have all done a search, but at least Sandbox had like a little counter where you could see, like you could click on it and it would tell you the X and Y coordinates. But I found that that piece of land is actually right here. That's that puppy right there. So very interesting. You know, the bottom one right now, the lowest piece, is actually got a waterway on it. So you got beachfront property. That sounds kind of fun. I just, did the X and Y based on the left-hand side of it, right? The left-hand side of the screen being, going up and down for Y and left, right for X, and just kind of went, oh, it's about middle in there. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. There's no more else other than that's where the land is, and then you're open-ended to this stuff. I'm wondering if this is the moon that we saw, it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of like different land looking, they're like different colors. So that's exciting. But what I'm curious about is I am concerned about other universes, and they do mention that in their white paper, but obviously it was done a few years ago. I think most of their sightings are from obviously it was like started in 2016 or 17, but a lot of them are propelling themselves and talking about futures of 2018. So it's an old document we're going to be looking at in a minute. But they do mention the universe or anywhere in the universe and kind of multiple universes. And even in that video, they actually mention it. And those do concern me because those are downfalls that I've seen with other platforms that make them too big. You think about Second Life. There was this 3D world building back in the .com era that my cousin was heavily in called Alpha World. Shout out if you've ever heard of it. It had a problem where everyone originally had to start in the same sort of spot, and they were forced to be together. Therefore, there was just this like finite amount of space, and it was really popping. There was a lot of people there. It was always valuable land. People wanted to be there. There was money even being exchanged in those days, and especially for avatars. Like you could purchase avatars. My cousin actually made and sold them to people, right? He would make like crazy avatars and sell them. So it was the starts of this. But what they did is they opened up the entire world, and they actually made the universe like unlimited, so you could have your own world. They had it so you could go to other people's worlds. And the second that happened, the whole world fragmented. The whole community fragmented, sorry. So when I see these places having finite land and a map that's fixed, that's what I want to see for mass adoption and for it to continue growing. Because, just like you're playing in Vice City or you go back and play GTA 5, if everyone online could go unlimited places, they would just end up in all sorts of worlds. But because you're forced to sort of interact with each other because it's only so big, that's what's going to keep adoption high, and in my opinion, going to really be those pushers for video games going forward. So I like to see that with the land sales when they have specific sort of areas that you can't go too far into. So I'm hoping that's what it is I'm seeing, and I'm just hoping that it continues down that sort of mindset and not like some other way. I'm curious what these dotted lines are. It's kind of like they're sectioned off. They might be like sort of like districts. I don't know. Should be interesting. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. You could mint all the other vehicles and stuff if you got them. That doesn't show any of them out here, but let's go take a look at those. Let's just type it in here. I guess we're doing the, and I always want to put a W, right? Obviously, network. And so then they've got transports. Let's look at that real quick. So you've got a choice between these vehicles. There's the bikes and jets and planes, and obviously they're doing a start series, a mini series, right? So it's like you gotta just get, you're getting the bike or one of these 5 things in a boat. I think this is a boat over here. So you're kind of stuck with those. I actually haven't looked at the avatars. Let's take a look at the avatars real quick. Yeah, so here we are. Here's some avatars. I don't know. Look, here's a guy. Here's, one type. Here's Eve. Oh, is it the other one going to be Adam? Wow, it is Adam. Crazy. I want to see Quantum. I don't know. Okay, it's like an R2-D2 looking thing. Its current selling price is $2,500. So getting an avatar in this land, its floor price is about $1,500, which we saw. That's what that half an ETH, or $1,800 right now. So I guess ETH's going up because I felt like it was 1,500 we saw on the other one. Yeah, so, because that was in a bid now at a 0.6, right? Not expensive to get avatars, it's definitely it's not for the faint of heart, but that's the NFT drop that's been going on. So they're making work in it, and that's where we are. Kind of keep note of that in the roadmap. We got a lot of partners here, and this is what I was saying again about a lot of the buzz and what I've seen on their sort of blog posts is they've been partnering with a lot of groups. Not a lot of recognized names here. Gaia, I'll recognize. I'm just looking over real quick. I'm sure there's a few more in here, bigger players that I should be recognizing. This I like to see. They're working together with blockchains, and they do mention it somewhere on one of their posts I read about recently, is that interoperability across these is going to be something that they're mainly focused in. And we're seeing the big guys. Dot, Cardano, Solana, Polygon. Like, this is great stuff to see. So I'm very happy about that, as long as they follow through. I'm hoping this isn't just marketing BS. That's just like, hey, we're connecting with them. To what value? You know what I mean? Like, are you actually going to be connected? that's something to be said, is actual follow through. So this is going to be a big thing that makes it so we can get those 200 gains. Investors, nothing in here I recognize off the top. Again, I wish I did, but they're obviously trying to show that they're working with people and they're making plays on it. So this Meta Angryverse, this is a new little game thing that they're coming up with. Now the team, I actually tried doing a little bit of research, and I just kind of started off with the team top guys here, and I'll do it for you. Oh, it actually wants me to. Okay, well, there was a little pause there. LinkedIn's not playing nice, and I have no plans on signing up for LinkedIn. LinkedIn can go suck a D for all I care. It's a very useless social platform. It's only for business hand jobs. I clicked on these three guys to kind of see where it went, to see what sort of history they've got. I didn't want to go through the whole team just to kind of vet them. Generally, I look at the main players to see sort of what backing they've got. Wasn't huge, all smaller projects. Linus here, he was actually, just seems like he made his money in stock trading, and I'm not really sure how he made his money. It showed self-employed for 6 years. Michael here, if you know of more of a place, but on his LinkedIn, it really was just kind of showing that he's the creator and founder, and he worked mostly in engineering. It seems like he might have made his money in real estate VR apps, right? So that's probably where he's coming from. And then the CEO, same sort of thing. It was just like one other blockchain project that he had before this coming out of college. So not a lot of we're not seeing developers come from other projects or maybe even big, centralized sort of companies. So it's a young crowd, and there might be some naivety there. So that's something to be said. But I'd be curious if out of this whole thing, they did break it into, a lot of these people are advisors, right? So Jason Gerald, let's see what his sort of is. Yeah, I'm not gonna join in. So a lot of these are all going to want to go to LinkedIn, but they have a lot of advisors. So hopefully they've got some good help in the advisory section of their team. Here is a note that we're continuing down as far as the team, and something that kind of spurs some interest is that number 3 here on the right, senior, now hiring senior Unreal Engine developer, okay, full-time. So that leads you to believe that this is on the Unreal Engine, which would be amazing. We got Unreal 5 coming out, or out already, right? Isn't it? Yeah, that would be amazing, right? So that's a real engine that's already got legs. It looks beautiful. We know it's got support. So we're not gonna have problems there. Really, it's just gonna be about them integrating their front end and back end on it. Not their front end, their back end. So that's, I think, a really big thing to mention that could be a big part of it. So this means that, we're looking at a game that's going to be utilizing stuff that works. So maybe they won't have problems with that coming out of the gate. And I like to see that. So that's that sort of stuff that I think is a surprise little, tip that you should be keeping an eye out for when you're reading this stuff. And that's what you do. You just look at this and just try to figure it out. So the Medium is just something I'll show you. We'll jump over there. This is a really good source of information. A lot of this is mirrored on Twitter. This is all bounced over to Twitter, but you can again see that sort of the main gist of where they're at right now is just kind of buzz. So they've been launching their NFTs. They're continuing to get partnership after partnership, hoping to leverage probably that community. It's just one after another all the way through, right? We're just continuing. They're actually when they were launching the minting of their sort of NFTs. So that's, again, somewhere to kind of keep an eye on if you want to join. Obviously, all their platforms here, all their kind of connections, that if you want to stay in connection with what they're doing. But I think Twitter and Reddit are really good places for that. So let's take a look. Let's jump over to the Tokenomics right away and just start there. And one of the things that kind of jumped out to me right away is I wasn't disappointed with this, right? It seems pretty reasonable. And if we actually look at it, we're looking at a chunk here. I did the math before. I think it's about 52% down to private sales. Okay, let's actually do it together so that we can verify it. So 12.5 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6 plus 7 plus 6.5 plus 7, 54%. So a little bit over, so enough for them as a group. Obviously, it's, doesn't mean they can keep all that percentage, but if everyone here is on the same team, they can make company-wide decisions that kind of directly take it in one place. But obviously, they do give, they had their public sale as far as having this out, and this was already done. This has already actually been done. That's what this is I can't even remember exactly the nomenclature for TGE, but token generation event. That's the launch, like when it actually was coming out. So they had a public sale here, 50% and then 2 weeks afterwards, they did have some sort of community enrichment wallet, which is sort of like, 20% is going to that. I'm not 100% sure what that's going to be for them and how that's going to look. And then they're throwing about 3 million of these over to the exchange liquidity. So there's a few out there for us to play with as the common folk. It's interesting. Should be interesting to see how much of that actually comes into sort of the decentralized nature of this, because as you can see, operations, marketing, and advisors, those all kind of took a huge chunk. Pre-seed, seed sale, and private sales, those also are going to be all people who are kind of like probably lumped in with the group. They're kind of part of the team. So that's kind of, it's not horrible. It's not the worst sort of tokenomics I've ever seen. I do like to see incentive for companies to continue working on it. So that's what we're looking at seeing. This is what it says is 100 million. It says currently there's about 31 million in it. So I'm not sure exactly if they're considering this as what's not circulating in there is their team, and whether it has a 10% for months 2 to 11. I'm not sure if there's actually like some sort of withhold period. But one thing we can go check a look at is actually, you can actually see it here, but let's take a look on the Explorers. Let's look at an Etherscan and squiz on over at the actual coin itself. And let's look at the top holders. This is something I like to do to sort of see like how many of these are actually held in like one wallet or two wallets. So when you're comparing the wallet, like, right, obviously looking at wallet size, if there's one wallet that's got like 50%, then you're like, whoa, that's kind of scary, because that's recipe for rug pull or something nonsense. We do have a couple of big wallets here. This one here, clearly KuCoin, so this is an exchange. That's 9% there. Everything after, we got another KuCoin one, which is listed, which is very helpful to see that. We have some locked up contracts here, which, we could go dive into. I'm not going to. They're smaller amounts. It's these big ones that are kind of concern, but if you actually click on them and then we follow the chain through, so literally this had the amount of 100, which was probably a test, and then they sent 16 million over to it. If we actually click on it again, we can see what's in that wallet. And it's actually this, and believe it or not, was this the one that actually had some, had some Tether and some USDC and some Deep Space coin in it as well. And these were all haven't been touched for about a year and a half. So, and this is the same for all those other wallets that I mentioned here. Right here. So these two other wallets are doing the same sort of thing. So going back to the tokenomics of it, look, 12%. And then if we put this group together, so 5, 6, that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a 15 and we were looking at a 15 and 60. So there's a 12.5 and then there's a 15 or 16, right? So I'm going to assume that that's the team's wallets. And then maybe even these private are put in here for, some sort of like held for some sort of period of time. But there's clearly a big couple of wallets there. Again, one I think the team, and one I think, actually two of them I think are probably the team at least, if not all three of those big ones there. Take it for what it is. Obviously, looking at this is all just kind of speculation. You're just kind of trying to guess who's got them and what they're doing. You could do some deeper digging, but I really just look at it for like, again, trying to see if there's like two wallets holding like all the coins. That's a really scary prospect. So so that's pretty much the tokenomics for you. You can take a look here. Let's have a look at the white paper, and I'm not going to go through this with you right now. I'm just going to kind of tell you my thoughts as I have done some of the research into it for you. Well put together. Obviously, again, like I said, if you're going to rip me off, lie to me and put the work in, make me really believe that you're doing the right thing. So it's got all the right things it needs to, as far as like the look. There's a couple of things that, again, they noted in here that I'm mostly going to talk about. So really about the challenge and the industry problem and our solution. So those are what I look at when it comes to the project and what they're trying to accomplish, is sort of like, especially when I'm thinking about investing into it, to see what it is, if they got something new to the table and if they really can talk about it thoroughly. Quite often white papers will just kind of glaze over them a little bit, and that's what they've done in this case. It was done several years before when the concept of the business was very early into its, potential, and really they were just kind of like throwing stuff on a wall, it seems like, and seeing what stuck. But let's go over and actually take a look at, I'm going to set this up so I can jump around in a little bit, but so the challenges are that, well, what they really do see is that the market is going to continue to grow. And they currently at 2018 at the time, they saw that there was about 26 billion. Yeah. So the growth, the virtual reality market and the augmented reality market was about 26 billion. This is their projected growth. I'd be curious to compare these numbers here. We are in 2022. So looking at, is it really $188 billion? I don't know, I'm just going to do a quick share for that. Virtual reality market share. No, that's old. This is it's interesting. You'd probably have to find a specific report that was done on it. So I'm not going to jump into this right now, but that's sort of where they see. So this is them prepping the space to show you that they think it's got some legs and growth on it. If we cruise on down, actually, this is talking about what parts of them are segregated into what kind of groups, whether they're in applications or whether they're in hardware. And this is the country range that they see the growth potential being in. They see Asia over here on this side as being big. It's kind of interesting they're grouping in Australia into that, because I don't really feel like it's got the same sort of growth potential. But curious that the US is in the mid space, but they do talk about how they see that there is the most potential growth. And in the roadmap, which we'll go to, they wanted to do some fundraising through Asia, and I'm not sure if they did. But what we're looking at is the main industry problems and solutions. And really what they cite here is, again, that there is kind of like a lack out there. And the main focus being what I said at the beginning of this video was the content creation itself was the hard part. It was a high barrier to entry to people, the non-layman, the layman, right? The non-intense user, to get in, create stuff, create NFTs, or the actual buildings and the cars and the vehicles and the land and manipulating it. That was the crazy part that they're finding people are having in. So they really want to make it efficient sandbox environment for people. Everyone can come and be creative in complex ideas. Make these crazy worlds simply. Use simple user interface and simple tools to make that sort of stuff. They also noticed that one of the other problems there was the lack of monetization options, which, again, as we know, most games haven't really had much of them, even though I said those pre-alpha world days that my cousin was playing in, there was money being exchanged, and obviously things like World of Warcraft, people are buying high-level shields and stuff, but there hasn't been this sort of resurgence in money-making in game space since blockchain, right? So this is the first time they've got it. They do mention that in here. The only thing I would say is that their solution, you can see that all these problems are what they're talking about, and it's a little brief. It's a little brief in my opinion. It offers multiple monetizations as well as rewards for participation, but doesn't, can capitalize on stuff. There will be a possibility for royalties. They glaze over it. This is one thing that was a little disappointing with this, is that it was a little simplistic was the answer. So all these problems, and then we're gonna fix those. And it's like, okay, let's talk about it. So I guess they attempt to do that through the rest of it, but where they really see is that they want to hit gamers hard, and they want to make it for everyone, not just the serious gamers. But these main portions over here, the advertisers, developers, businesses, they want it to be like a platform where business meetings could actually interact inside of a world. Like you could have your own virtual business office. It's an interesting prospect, right? That's kind of what you think with the metaverse. They also want it to be a good place for advertisers, which is what I'm interested in. And it's going to be all kind of like pushed through their marketplace, obviously, their NFTs. They do have an interesting statement about how the advertising will work. You'll be able to get billboards originally, but they'll be fixed sizes, and then they mention you can play with them, which it's not going to be like up to your discretion. So they don't want clearly people just throwing billboards everywhere, right? So that's kind of one thing you got to work on. So there needs to be some sort of like community or government sort of minimizing the craziness that could happen, because all of a sudden it could just be signs everywhere. So so again, it's kind of talking about the main the users, what they would get out of it. Mine is businesses, because if businesses start to get a hold of this, not just the average user, but businesses, then you also really start talking about real money getting into the space. So as you can see, they're talking about revenue stream generation through real estate, virtual environments and, potentials to work together. Gamers, obviously, it's going to be playing in the video game. So they do note that there are competitors. They do analyze it a little bit. They just give you a little bit of a graph. They say that there's some spaces out there, but they don't really hit all the key points. And they do mention their main, at the time in 2018, their high sort of key points. I would be curious to go back and look at these. I haven't heard of any of these except for Decentraland. Clearly Decentraland's worked out pretty well for them. So here's a little section that's also, they kind of like try to give it in an easy to visualize grid form. I always find these things kind of cheesy because it's like clearly you're going to make your ticket items always the best. But it is interesting to see what things you can't, like this is virtual parcel ownership. Why would you be these are all going to fail. None of these are going to do great. I mean, Sandbox is in here. They even mentioned Sandbox in here too. They didn't have it up here. Interesting. Yeah, you know what I mean? And like the one thing that Sandbox doesn't have is advertising, which is find hard to believe because it's like you technically can advertise. Like I've seen game places, Atari, I know Deadmau5 is in there, so it's like multi-purpose sandbox. It's like vague. What does that even mean? It's like, I mean, I know it's a little more fixed in the other spaces, but those are the things. Again, talking about the ecosystem that will be the reasons to buy. These are the main things right here. So I'm going to zoom out so you can look at that real quick. This is the main incentive here, right? Buying land, assets, having a place to actually visit. That's a small piece in the middle there. Generating NFTs and staking. All these are around money making. These are all, as you would note, these are all pretty much about money making. So that's very interesting to see that sort of portion of it. And that's really it, other than they kind of talk about how land sales will do and advertising. Yeah, so here was the one place I noticed that Netvrk will provide several interactive virtual billboards. That's interesting. So it doesn't really put it into my control. Now, the other projects like Remark kind of go to lean towards you can do whatever you want with your land. And if you want to put a billboard on your land, then you could do that. That seems like more free will that people will want than, say, being like segregated to or relegated to like, here's what we have left. Oh, you didn't get one? Sorry, they're out. Like you can't put any more up. And not that I'm talking just about billboards, but from an advertising standpoint, people are going to be upset unless it's a real commodity. Then it will be a high ticket item. So yeah, that's, here's a little bit more information. So if you're interested about this, definitely dive in. The development steps are something that I looked at that were kind of like it's a longer version of their roadmap is where they're planning to take it. They're going to start off with a centralized version of it internally. I think they might have already done that, but if we look at our roadmap here, let's take a look and I'll give you a full view of that. We can kind of see where, so this looks like it started in 2016 and this is where, they were talking about projections for 2018 where they're near to projections through this white paper. And it looks like they want to do a China roadshow, which is what I mentioned, why they see more potential in the VR space. I believe they mentioned it being sort of a bigger place for it. But if we're looking at, let's just look at where we are. There, 2019, they were hoping for a partnership with HTC. I don't think I've seen that anywhere. I didn't see HTC anywhere, so that never came to fruition. Looks like they might have still been doing that. I feel like the fundraising is the portion we just saw. Looking at early access release, business development expansion, and public token offering. So that's happened. That did happen. I haven't seen an early access release. We're still working on that. This expansion, I think, is happening now. So they're sticking to it. They're in some place of it. I have to hope that all this stuff was actually still happening. But yeah, so right here, we actually see the goals for what they're coming up to is getting it all transferred over and starting expanding. We're not there yet. So that's this next phase. So if it's going to take off, as far as the team's concerned, they're kind of coming up to the last rounds of like launching this thing and seeing what happens. So that's something to be noted. Again, here's a little bit of information on the team if you want to dive into it, not go to LinkedIn like me because I ain't playing LinkedIn's game, man. But really it just says he was the founder of Xmod. So again, I think it was a real estate-based company. Big team here. I like to see that they've got them all kind of there. And then we hit the legal disclaimer. So that's kind of the white paper. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I guess we're kind of wrapping up here. So really before I move on real quick, I always like to do a little bit of a Twitter search. Let's take a look at the latest. There's some, as far as doing the top, what I've got is a scroll down, and I've kind of already done this for you. It's just a bunch of hype. I've got a lot of posts from the company itself. I got, a few names out here. Here's one of the crypto workers. Here's some more NFTs coming out from the space. This is one of those partnerships where I think it's the rednecks versus aliens or whatever. Some more hype there. Someone bought some lands, posting about it. Someone paid, number 19, paid $33,000 for it. Crazy. We're looking at, here's some more OpenSea. This is their push sort of in the NFT space, really them pushing a lot of that sort of stuff. More hype. This was an interesting one, and I did pull this up. I'll zoom in on this for you. So I brought this little tweet up that I came across while I was scrolling through the Twitter before, and it's very interesting because it gives you a little bit of perspective on, and I don't know, I haven't vetted these numbers, but even if they're remotely true, is like land's got an ROI, like we've already gone up 316%. The transport, if you bought into those NFTs, the avatars are up a little bit. The bonus pack, obviously not as coveted. The land's really the thing that people are going to want on it. And, if we click on this, we can see what has been the general. So a lot of people in that space, in that lower bracket, just kind of probably speculators and punters like us, looking in there. This is interesting to see. It's like it's definitely got legs in it. There's money going up and up. As far as the space, will this continue? We're in a down market for the trends of Bitcoin and where we are in the cycles. So, the fact that it's still moving on, it's got some momentum in it. And this, I'll wrap up my thoughts about it a little bit later. But it's interesting to see not a lot of hate, right? Nothing but really good things now. I think it's small enough of a coin to still be flying under the radar. Here's another one of the Sea Martians versus Rednecks. Generally, and I'll cut that short for you guys. And even when I do the same thing on Reddit, it's the same sort of look. There's just generally people like, hey, this is happening. This is cool. There's just a lot of promotion from the company right now. I think this one's flying under the radar. So let me just kind of wrap up on my thoughts here. This is where, after looking at this, I've been looking at this for a couple days now since it sort of was presented by Alex Becker, kind of just nudged at it when he saw some metrics over on OpenSea that were based, and he did a retweet on it. And that's what twigged me to kind of look into it. And over the last few days, I've been looking deeper and seeing the NFT sales that have been pushing it, realizing the market has had a lot of news and there's a lot of push out there. I've seen it on the social networks of Twitter and Reddit, where a lot of crypto heads kind of like to live. And I've seen nothing but at least just news or good stuff. And I always look to see if there's hate in there, and you can look for a few of them out there, and there's some definite hate. So you keep an eye out for that. But from a money-making standpoint, now getting to our kind of prediction, looking at what we've kind of looked at price action, where it's been, what it could potentially get to, it looks like this could have the legs to actually get to a 200 times gain, barring anything negative happening. So if we were to do that sort of a space up, if we were to actually get a 200 gain on this thing and take this all the way to 9 billion. So let me do my calculator again. I'm going to bring this up for you real quick. So 9 billion, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's divide that by, what are we dividing that by? We're dividing that by 31 million. So 290. So I'm going to say that as a prediction for this puppy to actually get to an all-time high matching Decentraland, if this thing launches and actually gets into being a competitor to Decentraland and maintains the buzz it has, or even remotely gets to that space, it could have a $290 potential from $1.62. That said, conservative dropping down to even living, and that's a high peak, that's an all-time high. Let's drop it down to something where even Decentraland's sitting now of about $4 billion, we'd be looking at about $150 for this coin to go up. I think if you were to realistically place this anywhere between $50 and $100 as far as where it could potentially get to, complete speculation and a guess based on just what I've seen here, comparing to something that is a competitor that they're aiming to get to in the next few years. We know this is going to be the year of Metaverse. We know we're going to see some moves here. So I would expect to see an alpha coming out here very soon. The NFTs are leading us that it's going to happen. And if we have any sort of upward momentum and the market isn't going down and dragging it down, this could easily have a play up. If you have a longer time horizon and you can wait for those gains a little bit longer, just getting in now is probably going to be something you're going to thank yourself for. I mean, $1.62 versus even $50 is going to be a huge, it's like a 25, 20, it's almost a 30 times gain, right? So I think it could definitely get to $25, bring that market cap from 50. Is this $1 billion company one day? More than likely, right? Like, just again, use a conservative, is it a quarter of what decentralized is? Is, even if it launches, gets people in it, playing it, has some of those partnerships actually working, connects with some of those blockchains in an easier way, allowing you maybe to buy some of those coins easily or spend money somehow, this could more than likely be $1 billion company in no problem. And we are only, the only thing I will say is that we are only looking at a self-reported 31 million sort of circulating supply. So the max supply being 100 million out there, should be interesting to see if that starts, if there is a dilution of the pool there to kind of bring that down. I still think it's going to maintain, again, using the market cap and where the potential cost, the price of the company could be sitting in there. So potentially all the way up to $290 a coin. I'm going to go with, let's bet the farm on it. No, don't do that. This isn't financial advice. This is just sort of speculation and a guess at the future. We're going to look back and see if this ages like milk or whether I was somewhere on the nose on it. But I'm pretty excited about the project, honestly. And I think it has a little bit of potential there. This is a very cool looking concept. I have my reservations, like I said before. If they keep it small, keep the VR space small to begin with, let people play it, force them to play in the same sort of space. That's how you're going to reach your potential all-time highs. That's how you're going to maintain people playing this game. Do remember, it is a game in the metaverse, and the one thing I think this place could do is if they integrate other portions, and this goes for any sort of metaverse or metaverse game, they have to integrate other things outside of just being a game. They can't just make it about here's these little things to go play with, because games come and go, passing fads all the time, and there's always going to be a new and better one out there. So when it comes to metaverse plays, as far as picking something that is more of a game, this one's an interesting one because I think that it's trying to build a world that hopefully won't just kind of like focus on just being a giant chat space. But that's what they're all purporting to do. I mean, Decentraland, what has it ended up being? Something similar. It's a place to kind of go hang out, which hopefully you will. I want to see some real world applications, which is why I'm concerned about those business integrations and how they can make advertising space for people that will actually like it, or businesses could actually use this in another interesting way. So, yeah, hopefully this was all useful. I know this was a really long video. This is probably like a 40-minute video now, but just kind of going through the whole process. Hopefully, again, it was useful. If there's anything in there you thought was like sort of misread or you think that I missed, leave it in the comments. I want to hear about it. I'm really interested on these coins, what you think about it and what you guys are actually looking at when it comes to this sort of these smaller micro caps and these places in the metaverse. Like I said, I did a video. It's doing pretty well on Remark. A lot of interest in that. I'm pretty interested in that project. This network I'm also interested in. So let me know your thoughts on what's the next one to look at. What are other little ones that you're seeing you think are flying under the radar or are just now getting the little bit of credence they deserve? Yeah, again, awesome. Put it down there. And if you found any value in this, you know what to do. Hit the like button because it does help the channel, and subscribe if you want more like this. This is generally how I'll probably deliver this format of just kind of doing research real quick. Yeah, again, hopefully it was useful. I know there was a lot in there. Let's, can we see a 200x? Can we still see 200x's? I'm looking forward to it. I want to see a 200x. Thanks for checking it out, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.